Hello everyone and welcome back. So in today's video I'm going to be sharing a few tips and tricks for Houdini. They are as always very practical and you can experiment with it right away. So I'm going to start with this project that I actually never finished, but it has some tips that I wanted to let you know. So this is like a book lamp animation that I saw somewhere on Pinterest and I thought would be cool to recreate, but again never finished this. But there are some cool things I wanted to share. So this all starts with a fold that I do with a rig wrangle, and the bit that I wanted to show you is that, as you can see, I have some normals that I calculated with this horizontal curve. They are just pointing up. And then I'm calculating, since I'm going to do a bend after, so as you can see, this bend, the normals, as you can see, don't follow that bend. So what you can do is to calculate a transform with a lookat function from with that n attribute, and that will look something like this. And let's get rid of the normals. And when we bend it, as you can see, the transform will go with it. And then in order to have, since I'm going to use this axis later, this like a normal attribute, I can extract it from the transform just by multiplying the transform by the axis you need. So this is how you extract an axis from a matrix. So in this case I want the z-axis, so I place a vector on the z-axis and multiply it by the transform, which results, as you expect, by this vector that you can see in here. So later down the line I can do transforms based on that normal attribute, and in this case I'm just replicating the shape. So that was the first tip, how to extract a vector from a matrix. So still in the same example, as you can see I have the start of the animation. And I want to move it up because right now is below due to the modeling. It was done below the origin. So if I place in here a match size and I move it to the center, if we look at the front view and I scrub through here, as you can see, it's moving in there. It's not sticking to really to the center because we have this animation going on and the match size is calculating every frame. So what we can do is to place a time shift on the end frame, and then in this wrangle we can simply get the bounding box center of the freezed frame and then just subtract from p that bounding box center. This way we always get this origin fixed, as you can see. So instead of calculating every frame for the match size and not getting an accurate result, we can easily use the bounding box mean also. So we move it to the mean position, but in this case I'm using the bounding box center. So this is another example scene where I had to model a fork, and as a challenge I tried to do it procedurally. And so the bit that I wanted to show you after extracting this is done from a sweep, as you can see, and manipulating the curves. Then I'm selecting in here the parts for the dents, blasting, and then I need to scale the tips. And this was the most difficult part to do procedurally. So, and even without doing it procedurally, if you want to do this manually, it might be a bit tricky to have a local axis on each dent. I'm calling it dents, I don't know if that's the correct name. Anyways, so how I'm doing this is, first of all, I'm selecting the middle points just by doing some math in here and offsetting a bit by the select amount. Then I'm creating a UV flatten to get the UVs flowing on this geometry that will look something like this. From there I'm measuring the gradient of this UV attribute, in this case the X component, which means we will have a gradient that looks, if I enable actually the visualization, a gradient that will go along the geometry. But we actually need a vector that points out in each direction or points in depending on the way you set it up. So what am I doing in here in the scale tips? First of all, I have a prim row attribute from the sweep, which looks something like this. So in this case, it's prim row. So it alternates between 0, 1, 2, 3, but in this case I deleted some in the middle, so this will be 0, 1, maybe 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So what am I doing in here? I'm reading that prim row and getting the bounding box center of each of those IDs. Then I'm also selecting the points, expanding the point group of these points that we will use later. Calculating a mask along the Z, but we'll get there in a bit. The gradient is just the gradient we measured. Then we do a cross product between the gradient and the y and the negative y-axis, which will give us, if I disable all of these, it will give us a value, a vector pointing in that direction on the negative x. But then we can do a sign, so a sign for every other prim row, but that won't still get us there. And from there, of course, we need to multiply by the sign, but that will also count for the middle points we have in there, so we just want to do it on the unshared edges. And for that, we can find the points, find all the points that are not in that middle group that we selected previously, and multiply the vector also by that sign, let's say. And then we have the vectors pointing out that with a mask along the z-axis, which is just a relative point bounding box along the z, we can multiply, offset the position, and create an amp multiplier that will just scale down along the tips, because we have the vector pointing out. In this case I'm doing minus, so we could also have it pointing in, but in this case it's pointing out. It's not perfect, as you can see on the tips, but is somewhere close, and that's how I did this procedural fork. And then at the end we should have something like this with a subdivision and whatnot, and you can see even on the tips the topology is perfect. Again, you can have a look on Patreon, all these files that I'm sharing, I'm gonna be posting there if you are curious how I did the rest. But again, this was the most interesting part. I hope it was clear. So this was a question that got me thinking on how you can take an input geometry where you have no access to the history or the creation. In this case I have, because I built it in here, but let's say you don't have, you just got some geometry and you have to manipulate it. And the way we need to manipulate it is to have a control to change the thickness along the, let's call it ribbons or whatever you want to call it. So you can do all this manipulation, and as you can see, it's only happening in one of the axes and on multiple object also. So let's see how that's set up after creating the geometry. And we have, let's say we have this baked, then we can first of all enumerate to create an ID for each point, because later we will need it. In here, this group is selecting the hard edges, as you can see, so we can do a UV flatten. And this UV flatten is using a rectify group on all, so we get these flowing UVs, and they look something like this, which means that we can easily create a U attribute or a curve U along our shape. So if we now split the UV seams and promote to a point attribute, and in this case in here I'm creating the U attribute based on the uv.x, so I can actually show you how that looks if I assign this to an attribute. And if we look at it, oops, as you can see we have like a curve view along our geometry, but in this case I am manipulating it with a ramp and creating this sort of shape. So that's fine. Now in this case I'm not doing anything in here. To select these polygons that we want to move, we can measure the area and promote it to a minimum in detail mode, because they will be more or less the same, these polygons in here. And then in a group expression we can use that area and the mean area to select within a tolerance. And I can see that it's selecting more than I want, so I'm gonna decrease this in here. And as you can see, we have a tolerance to select all those polygons in there. Then it's simple. Right now the geometry is splitted. So what we can do a pick, and now the pick node in Houdini 21 allows us to input a mask attribute, which I'm using that U that we created, and I'm doing that only on the group, this group of polygons. Then we can simply fuse this by creating, we can even disable the snap distance and just do match attribute by index, which means that we can come in here and even pick it in even more, or manipulate in here the curve, as you can see. So a very specific case, but hopefully this will help you out in a future situation. So in this last example, I wanted to show you how you can create quickly some reliefs, let's say for coins and that type of geometry. In this case, it's just using normal, so it's like a fake effect. But if you want, you can move this into the depth channel and do based on height and create these reliefs. But this normal setup works pretty well in my opinion. So you will start with the geometry that you want to imprint, create the normals, and then create the coin geometry and match size it and place it in the front of the mesh that you want to imprint. You do a basic remesh because you will need some geometry, and do a UV texture, just an orthographic projection along the z-axis. Then you add the normal, and this is, let's say, is our low mesh, and this is our high mesh that we were going to use in a baked geometry textures. So you place the high, which will be the imprinting geometry, and you place the coin as low. And then you can simply render the normal, which is in here world normal. And as you can see, this will give you this result, and then you can plug the coin geometry to the material, and you'll connect it, the output, to the normal channel, and you get this sort of result, as you can see, which can be enough to do some fake effects. So hopefully you found this useful. And that's basically it, guys. Hopefully you found these examples interesting. I hope I can continue with this series of doing tips and tricks in Houdini when I don't have a specific project to show. And if you want to support me, you can do so by subscribing to my Patreon, and where you can find all the project files, including the ones from this video and all the other ones, alongside with exclusive tutorials. I also have a Patreon shop if you want to have a look, where I have procedural courses in there, or courses on procedural modeling and animation and whatnot. So as always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.